What happened in qualifying
for the United States Grand Prix?
Wow. What a crazy day it has been in the world of Formula One, in our lives as well, Tommy. It's been a busy old one, fighting jet lag and just doing a lot of talking, a lot of words happening. And we're doing some more words. The podcast, our favourite part of any day, is chatting some more Formula One. And we've got a lot to discuss from Austin.
We certainly do. Yeah, we've been chatting all day. Obviously had the sprint watch along, then we did the sprint podcast, then we went straight to do a live show in downtown Austin, then back to do the watch along for qualifying, and now we're doing another podcast. A lot of waffling about F1, and just the sessions that we've had today are just insane. I can't believe the day we've had.
So let's get into it and start with Q1. The bottom five were Bortoleto, Ocon, Stroll, Albon and Hadjar. Let's get straight to the question, because of course it's going to be about Isack. Joe Formula 6P asks, did Hadjar crash on purpose so he doesn't go to Red Bull? Wow, we're hitting with the hard, stone cold questions,
conspiracy
aren't we?
Theories immediately.
Yeah, the tinfoil hats are on. No, I don't think Hadjar crashed on purpose, because you can see, once again, whenever Hadjar makes a mistake or crashes, he is literally beating the life out of that steering wheel. So he clearly didn't want to make that mistake. He holds himself in a very high regard, and he wants to perform every single time, and that's why he's most likely going to get the Red Bull seat next year. That's what we both believe.
Yep.
But it was just a mistake, right? Like, watching the onboard, it's nothing insane from like wow, he really should have done something differently. The car got light at a very fast point of the track, and it was a mistake, don't get me wrong, it's a driver error, but it wasn't like something so utterly unforgivable that you're questioning how did he manage that.
Yeah, these cars are on a knife edge, of course, incredibly high speed going into the S's. I think it was Colapinto had a big moment as well. He managed to obviously keep it on track, but yeah, Hadjar lost the back end. Not the best one for Hadjar, I'm sure. Not the greatest start for him, but next year, potentially, he could be driving a very pointy Red Bull, so...
Good practice.
Good practice.
To be fair, though, as well, Racing Bulls have not looked great this weekend,
no,
have they? They've looked off the pace.
The usual self, really.
Maybe Hadjar trying to sort of gain a bit more out of the car that he couldn't find. But either or, it's a massive mistake from him. He's starting last, and it's pretty much, well, unless we get the sprint start all over again.
I think it's the baked bean livery
it's
slowing
pretty
him down.
Much curtains, yeah. The baked bean livery, which I quite like, because I love baked beans, to be honest with you. So yeah, Hadjar crashed out P20. Another big scalp was, of course, Alex Albon, who extended track limits on his last lap. Didn't need to push as hard as perhaps he was. Turn 15, I think it was, if my memory serves me correctly, where he lost the lap. And there were at least 2 or 3 other occasions on that lap where we were watching going, that was close. That was within millimetres of going off the track as well.
Well, yeah, we were actually on board with, I say on board, off board with Alex, but him on the screen. And as he went through that final sector, we had 2 very kind of close moments, didn't we, where we were watching on TV going, that looks very, very marginal track limits. But then it was actually another corner that we didn't even see on the live coverage that he actually went off. That final sector of Kota always looks like such a struggle for the drivers of basically managing that risk versus reward, because it does look genuinely so hard to stay on the track that it's an incredibly difficult kind of set of final corners.
Disappointing qualifying for Albon and Hadjar. Lance Stroll doing Lance Stroll things in 18th and carrying a grid penalty anyway. So after his disaster with Esteban Ocon. Let's go to Q2, where the 5 drivers out in this session were Hülkenberg, Lawson, Tsunoda, Gasly and Colapinto. Surprisingly, not something either of us probably expected to talk about, is the fact that we were surprised that Hülkenberg didn't make it into Q3, but of course made it into SQ3, had a P4 for the sprint, which was very quickly undone. Not his fault, may I add, or maybe a little bit. Actually, I did say that we would talk about it a little bit just to discuss that. I have seen your comments, and I actually take on board the fact that maybe how we described it, from my perspective anyway, was that it was more Hülkenberg's fault than we should have. As we mentioned, we've had an insanely busy day. After seeing the aerial shot, I think Piastri has pinched in far too hard. And so I put definitely more blame on Hülkenberg.
On Piastri.
Sorry, I'm so tired. More blame on Oscar Piastri. Yeah. Hülkenberg, when you watch his onboard, you think, okay, maybe he's gone a little bit deep on the brakes. That's why I had that initial opinion, but totally get where people have come from with that one, and I stand corrected with that.
I don't think he's completely blameless, but yeah, watching the replays, definitely more on Piastri after that initial thing where Piastri like made a big direction change that we kind of said in the pod. The more I'm looking at that, and we'll get into this later as we talk about a certain Oscar Piastri, it's kind of getting worse every time I look at it from what Piastri did. But I don't think there should have been any consequences, and I stick by that it was a racing incident. And they didn't need to give it out any penalties there. And it's a crazy turn one, isn't it?
And if you want any more of our sprint review, then go and check out the podcast, because we did an additional one, which we weren't planning to do, but then both the McLarens were out on lap one, so we were like, God, we better talk about that in a specific podcast. Hülkenberg out in Q2, P11 for him. There's a question, moving over to the Red Bull camp now. P1 Patreon member, a good Karen. Lawson ahead of Tsunoda again, and Tsunoda over 7/10 off Max. How is it not clear yet for Red Bull who should be in the Racing Bulls next year?
It's not as clean cut. I believe that it will be Lawson unless they decide to promote someone, but I do think Lawson would be a good yardstick. Maybe it's a little bit unfair to say that it's clearly like Lawson is miles better, because I think we've had this discussion, and you can even flip it the other way around and say Lawson didn't get a fair shot when Tsunoda was doing really well in the V-Carb, and Lawson looked like a really bad driver. So we know that it's very hard to judge just how kind of, what their real performance is. But they don't have to rush it, Red Bull. They've still got time to decide. But I personally think it will be Lawson alongside Arvid Lindblad, personally.
Yep, it seems that way. As we've mentioned time and time again, I think Yuki's in a very troublesome position where he genuinely just can't show what the pace he has as a particular driver. It just doesn't work. The style in which he has to drive that Red Bull, it just is not for him. But there are there's talent waiting in the wings now, and this is the problem for Yuki, where he needs to have shown enough to go, I still deserve a seat in this Red Bull camp, and I just can't see it happening. And it's a sad thing, because I think we all love Yuki as a personality. But that is it. So as you say, Lawson ahead of Tsunoda. Gasly, worth mentioning, of course, P14, which in the end was actually wild.
Disappointing,
because
I think.
he was looking like he might get somewhere near getting through to Q3, but in the end, only one position ahead of Colapinto, which for Alpine, two cars in Q2 is phenomenal, and it did need Hadjar crashing in Q1, but Alpine progress
and Albon, because Colapinto was of course out,
yes,
before, and then got reinstated.
Tommy, let's not look into it too much. Alpine are great,
and look, it's their first double Q2 appearance since Austria. I saw them raving about on Twitter, which shows kind of how far they've fallen. That they're celebrating since Austria.
Since Austria, wow.
So it's not gone well for Alpine for it to be that long since both cars got into even Q2.
Yeah, that's insane. They're now celebrating that, how far they've fallen as a team.
Yeah, 100%.
That Drive to Survive episode gonna hit hard. Let's go to Q3, where the top 10. Tommy, try not to get too excited. Verstappen, Norris, Leclerc, Russell, Hamilton, Piastri, Antonelli, Bearman, Sainz, and Alonso. Absolutely dominant display from Max Verstappen. Nearly 3/10 clear. Didn't even do a second run. He didn't manage to get over the line in time.
Can you imagine if he'd not got pole?
Yeah, which I know you were very concerned about on the watch along. We were both thinking, could this have cost him pole? But the lap he put down in that first run was
so clear.
Mighty.
Crazy.
Were we watching 2023? Had we gone into some kind of TARDIS time capsule thing? Because that's what it felt like. That lap was just utterly brilliant.
It did feel like 2023 again, because Max was just so clear and so dominant, and you kind of thought, McLaren was such a weird one all session. They were both struggling. Obviously, one driver more so, who we'll talk about in a bit. But even at the start, Lando had a huge moment in Q1 where managed to save it going through the corner, and it's thinking like, what on earth is going on with McLaren here? But Max just looked absolutely unbelievable. And it's insane to see him get pole by such a comfortable margin, and to have again the championship. And what makes it so fascinating, we've said it before, is having the guy in third is in the best form and the guy in first is the worst form of the three, and now arguably even worse form. So this title has just gone from being like, oh, McLaren, can you please stop making it boring, to, oh my word, I am so hyped. And I'm sure a lot of people, even if you're not supporting Max Verstappen in this, just from a neutral perspective, this is the best thing that could have ever happened to this title, to throw another curveball into the mix, to make McLaren sweat more and not have this whole lovey-dovey, let's go to the championship together holding hands. And it's amazing to watch, and it's made these final races now so exciting, and it's amazing.
I genuinely think we're getting to a shift of people like me who believed from 75 points, people like you that will fully believe when it's 25 points, but we're actually getting to a realistic championship challenge now. With this grid, and I think it's very fair to say, it finishes the way it starts, which I think for Piastri you would expect progress, but let's say there isn't. Okay. Verstappen 25 points, Piastri finishes 6th, that is 8 points. That's a 17-point swing, 38 points with 5 races to go. Of course, Norris is in there as well. I think Lando even becomes potentially the favourite if we get to see this kind of form for the rest of the year. There's so many storylines. It's flipping constantly. Lando has a poor qualifying again. We're like, oh my God, maybe it's Max now. But this is what we want. This is what we love. This is why I love Formula One so much.
We needed this so much.
The expectations of where I was at this Formula One Championship, I've said it many times on the podcast this year, where I've struggled to get so emotionally invested because it's felt like, we've questioned McLaren's antics and their nicey stuff and fairness stuff. It's not what I watch Formula One for. But now they can't chill out and do all of this BS because Max Verstappen is genuinely somewhere in their rear window, just waving at the back. I'll have another 10 points, maybe 15 points, an 8-point swing at the sprint. It's coming.
Yeah, and another fascinating thing which we actually spoke about in the car on the way back is how fascinating, and we'll talk about Oscar Piastri next. But if they do finish where they started, Lando takes a big chunk out of Oscar, even if he finishes second, and the gap is small enough that my theory from literally a few hours ago saying this could be great for Piastri because they're going to have to back one of their horses, they probably won't if there's only 10-15 points between them and the gap is much. Can they really do that? So it literally, if you could pick a grid if you're like a neutral, pick a grid for the most exciting possible scenario for this World Championship, that is it.
Sign me up. I'm ready for it. Question from P1 Patreon member T Williams 12. Has the pressure gotten to Oscar? It's struggle town. I feel as though, and I think it's fair to say, that Baku is doing more damage to Oscar and potentially his confidence like this. And it might well be nothing to do with that, and it could well be just the fact that he struggles in the last few races of the season. I think last year, when you look at the results, it wasn't the best batch of circuits for Oscar. And it is his third season as well, may I remind you. He's
and going for his
learning
first
a lot.
Championship.
Yeah, there's a lot to go on, but he is human. I think everyone has spoken about how he's been ice cold and this, that, and the other, and he has. But we also said, with a few races before now, saying, but it will change. The pressure changes. Everything becomes so much more meaningful when we're 5-6 races out from the end of the championship, when you still have other rivals within a shot. And I genuinely believe that Oscar may just be second-guessing a little bit after Baku. It wasn't as big of a point swing in Baku as it could have been. But how does that not dent your confidence as a human being like Baku? Because it was one of, if not the worst weekend for a championship leader that I can ever remember. And it's not going to win him a championship. If he genuinely is 2-3 tenths now off Lando, which there isn't enough evidence to suggest that is now the norm. But if it does become the norm for the next 5 races, he won't win the championship. It's as simple as that.
it feels a very long time ago now that Lando Norris got that DNF in Zandvoort, and we were talking about, is that it? Is the championship over? Has Oscar won it?
And how many times did we say, guys, it's not over, there's plenty of races to go,
and that was
now
for
Max
Lando,
is
and
challenging.
now somehow Max is. And this is why I said, when we did our live shows, and the fact that none of us would have possibly predicted it, because even when we were in the Netherlands, no one was saying, "Oh, Max can."
Not even you.
Not even me. It was deadly silent when we said, "Who thinks Max can do it?" Because he was nowhere, and it's changed so much. And back to Oscar, is it pressure? Is he just on a bad run of form? I don't know, but this is not the way I expected it to go with Oscar at all. His biggest kind of the biggest thing for him was, and his biggest strong point that we had so many times, was the fact that he's ended up in being the Iceman. He's a cool customer, and I think when we were predicting who's going to win the championship, the things we said so many times were Oscar's cool and calm head is going to do him wonders as they go into those final races and nothing phases him. And we saw how Lando struggled with that pressure at the end of last year, but Oscar seems to be struggling more. Oscar needs like a big result now. He needs even if it's like second behind Max and ahead of Lando, just to show, look, it's fine. I can finish second or third for the rest of this championship or whatever. And I'm
can't
not
anymore.
Kind of.
He can't finish third anymore, mate.
True.
Not to Lando nor Max.
Yeah, but be there. So for him to be sixth, he nearly got beaten by Ollie Bearman.
He was just over half a tenth away from starting eighth.
It's wild. I can't believe this is happening. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating tomorrow how this plays out.
Next question, P1 Patreon member AMG Piper. If Max wins this championship, is it pure brilliance from Max or the ultimate bottle job from McLaren?
It's both. If Max wins this championship, it's easily the greatest comeback in the history of Formula One. He's already got the record for that in 2022 on Charles Leclerc, and it was 40 something points. But it was that. But also, like, as much as I'd love to race you, that was early in the season. He was 90 something points behind halfway through the season. It should have been over. No way could he possibly do it. So if he did do it, all credit to Max. It's the greatest comeback, and I'd argue one of the maybe even the greatest championship we've ever seen in Formula One, because McLaren have dominated the season. He should not be winning the championship. No chance. But also, it can coexist the same thing, that this would be the biggest fumble by McLaren in the history of Formula One, because this should be the easiest championship. I mean, how McLaren almost lost the Constructors last year, they should never have done. They should have won the Drivers' title. But this would be an absolute another level if one of their drivers didn't win the championship. It would be the ultimate, like AMG Piper said here, it would be the ultimate bottle job.
Harsh words from Tommy, the jet-lagged man. How would I weigh it up? I would put... It depends how the next 6 races go. Obviously 6 races including this weekend. If it's a case of Max winning, Lando and Oscar finish second and third for the rest of the season, Max wins by a couple of points, I'm putting that more down to Max brilliance than I am McLaren bottling it. It's hard because calling it a bottle job from McLaren, I don't want to undervalue what Max is doing at the moment, and Red Bull as well. They've done a phenomenal job with Max to build him and upgrade a car that was a dog to something where he genuinely feels comfortable in. And Lauren Mecky's, he's an engineer. Him going to the helm of the team, is it coincidence that they've just figured it out and started to make progress? I don't think so.
They so easily could have sacked off the championship and got all focus on 2026. We're nearly 100 points behind at the summer break. What's the point? And they've pushed more, and what an insane thing to think that how much, we saw that graphic at the start. We were watching on F1 TV, and they showed a graphic at the start of how many points people had scored since the summer break. Max was clear, and now we go into qualifying, and pessimistic me in the sprint podcast was saying this could all change and age badly if Max is fourth and it's a McLaren 1-2. Well, it's not a McLaren 1-2. It's Max is absolutely clear on pole position. Yes, Lando's second, but Oscar Piastri's sixth. So, yeah, wild.
But yeah, I don't fully weigh it to Max's brilliance. There is a smidgen of bottle job for sure from McLaren. Smidgen, a large slice of cake, but not the whole cake. Anyway, right, I'm jet lagged. Moving on to the next question. Mr. Bear 15. Where in the world did the Ferraris come from? Well, look, I've never doubted them. They sometimes just figure it out. Charles Leclerc P3 on the grid. Hamilton, I think, is fifth. Is that right? I think I'm pretty sure. I don't really know where they came from. They had no idea what they were doing after practice one, and they scraped through SQ1. They scraped through SQ2. Charles literally spun in qualifying today, and then managed to put on another set of tyres and chuck it third. So it is just such a lottery with Ferrari at the moment. I don't personally see them holding third and fifth when we get to the race. I firmly believe in a realistic viewpoint that Piastri comes through at the very least. So I don't have any answers. Yeah. I really don't, because literally yesterday I'm like, oh my God, I'm so done with Ferrari. I was in probably one of my lowest points after watching them in sprint qualifying in particular. And today I'm fist pumping that Charles Leclerc's third.
Yeah, and genuinely really close to P2, really close to a front row, which...
Yeah, less than 100th off, I think.
How on earth did Charles almost get a front row start after how bad things were yesterday? And yeah, they came through in the sprint, of course, as well, thanks to the misfortune of others at the start. Made it through the carnage and bagged some points. So yeah, what a crazy turnaround from basically, yeah, like you say, your lowest moment, and us saying like what an absolute joke Ferrari are on Friday, and here we are on Saturday, them somehow delivering a fairly decent performance.
Yeah, next year's our year for sure. Let's go to the next question. Craig Tilley, 95. Everyone is talking about Verstappen's renewed championship charge, but is tomorrow actually Lando's chance to regain the initiative in his championship hopes?
Look, I said it yesterday, can't write off Lando. All the talk is of like, is Piastri bottling it? Is Max, going to win the title? Not really been any talk on Lando, and I wonder if, I know it's
kinda
a bit of a cliche, but like, is that really good for him? Because we know last year he didn't enjoy the constant questions of like, why aren't you winning the title? McLaren are really good. You should be winning the title, and he, was making mistakes and it wasn't working for him. And yeah, he's still 22 points behind, but this is going to be a really interesting grid, and I'm really fascinated to see how Lando plays this tomorrow. Because I don't think he should really, and people go, of course you'd say that as a Max fan, but arguably if Piastri is, it's such a tough balance, isn't it? Because Piastri probably will come through the pack, so Norris does need to capitalise, but in a weird way, if he does take this title and Piastri is maybe dropping off in form a little bit, Max is still fairly long way behind and Lando's chipping away at the lead. Maybe his approach that sometimes, we've criticised him for saying he's not taking enough risk. He's not capitalising on these moments like a Baku, for example. Maybe it will work out for him. It's an insane thing to say. It's almost like until we get to the end of the year, we do not know what approach and how all these moments, and we'll look back on so many moments and go, oh, if this had happened different. You always do when the championship is going to be so close. And the way this championship is going, it could well finish maybe like 5-10 points between all three of them at this rate, the way it's going, because yeah, you just don't know. So Lando, what does he do? Does he just try and think about a second place, which maybe is not the most interesting thing, but he knows Oscar's down and he can erode his lead quite a lot. Maybe that's the approach to go for.
I personally believe that Lando has to capitalise on any opportunity he has in this championship, and this is one. I think that the caution will be lap 1, turn 1. It'll be scarred from yesterday, or today. I forget with my days with these sprint weekends. Yeah. But I think Lando will, of course, be mindful of lap 1, turn 1. He needs to get out of it facing the right way with all four wheels, because he can score more points than Piastri. if he has a car that's fast enough to be right on the back of Max, he'll go for a move. He's not going to do a George Russell from the sprint, no chance. Like, I don't think he has that in his locker to just absolutely send it from 0.6 back and just risk it for the chocolate biscuit. And I don't think he should do that either. I genuinely don't.
No, definitely not.
But also at the same time, I don't think he can just sit on his laurels, if that's the right word. Just accept a 3-point gain on Piastri,
if he's got a chance to win, he has to go for it.
Cool. And finally, we need to mention Ollie Bearman, P1 Patreon member. Edith is my middle name. Ollie Bearman, what a lap. That's it. It's not even a question, it's a statement. I agree. Ollie Bearman, my number 2 driver. No, number 3. Sorry, I forgot about Max. But great lap from Ollie Bearman. His teammate struggling again in quali, Esteban Ocon. He's got a good amount of points as Ocon, but that's from like a few standout moments this year. But Bearman is sort of consistently, and as well with all the pressure on his shoulders of these penalty points.
Yeah, he literally could get banned at any moment.
It's almost like he's thriving with this pressure on his shoulders. It's great to see for Bearman. He's learning a lot, and I'm very happy to see that he's got through to Q3 and starting in a solid position tomorrow.
How many times did we say in every driver ratings for the first maybe 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 races of Ollie Bearman is something special. He just needs to get his weekends together and he could really start showing something. And a bit like Carlos Sainz in a way, he's found his mojo now, and I think he's delivering a lot more consistently. And I think even just what we've seen this year, you look at the championship and as it is now, doesn't really reflect what a special talent Bearman is. And I think he's really going to go further. It's weird because of the odd appearances he made. Sometimes he doesn't almost feel like a rookie because we saw him last year a few times, and you kind of need to forget that this is his first full season, and he's doing a really good job, and this is one of his best performances, and also had an amazing performance last time out as well. So
exactly, Ollie Bearman hype train, choo.
Very much choo.
Also worth mentioning as a closing thought, Carlos Sainz in Q3 again, and Fernando Alonso. I mean, his Instagram story was pretty hilarious of just like him realizing he has no luck in Formula One, and he's on recharge for 2026. When I'm like, bro, you've got 6 races to go. Like it's not time to say goodbye just yet. But that's it, right? Quali is wrapped up, done and dusted. Thank you, everybody, for getting involved in the watch-alongs, for turning up if you came to the AT&T garage. That was a lot of fun doing that live event. We will be at the track tomorrow, so there will be no watch-along, sadly, but we will be back, don't you worry, with a juicy podcast, and we won't let you down with any more watch-alongs, I'm sure, for the rest of the year, unless we get, starting on the grid in Abu Dhabi and we get to wave the flag or something. But yes, it's been a lot of fun in Austin. Tommy, what are your final thoughts?
Final thoughts are, I hope we have loads of things to talk about again tomorrow, because it's been an absolutely insane day. That an insane qualifying session, a mad sprint, and it's just really spiced up. This championship is what this season really needed going into these final races, because we kind of got into our head a few races ago that this isn't going to be the title that we think it is. Well, now it is. now, boy, is it going to be something special, I think, now. So cannot wait.
My closing thought, as I've said several times already now, and I'll say it again, Max Verstappen is winning it all. Thanks for listening. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.